Hello everyone and welcome to Galaxy 89 Cars. Now today I'm bringing you another test drive video, this time of a 2018 Mercedes A Class. Now at first that may not sound like such an impressive car, but in fact when you actually begin to look at it, it's a very important car because it shows off Mercedes' new design language for their new model year 2018, the new technology, the new infotainment system with the dual screens. So let's not waste any more time, let's get in the car and see what it has to offer. Since the last bit of footage you saw, I've probably been driving for about 5 or 10 minutes. Just to get an extra little feel for the car. So the first thing I'm going to do is touch on performance. The car I'm driving right now is an A180 diesel, which means it has 116 brake horsepower, 1.5 litre diesel. Mercedes-Benz say it can do a 0 to 60 time in under 10 seconds, and that it's got a combined MPG of between 70 and 80. Now this is a fairly new car, so it hasn't really been run in yet. It's only got about 200 miles on it. The current MPG says 48.7, may go up or down, but it's around 48. When I picked it up this morning, it was around 34. So obviously, of course, it's dependent on driving style. I tried to drive in an economic way, which you've probably seen from my videos in the past. So it's gradually going up. I think probably 55 is probably quite easily achievable in all honesty. So despite this only having a 1.5 litre diesel, the powertrain really doesn't feel like it's lacking in any way. It feels really responsive. Now of course, because it's got an automatic gearbox and I've got it in start-stop at the moment, it takes a bit of time from a standstill when I put my foot on the throttle for the car to get going, because it has to re-engage the engine and get moving. But the build through power is also very quick. So if you're sort of moving at 20, let's say, and you have to get up to 40 or 50, it's a very smooth process. Now in some Lexus I've driven, the NX300 Hybrid for example, the powertrain sometimes feels quite stretched in that, but I think that's more a problem with the gearbox, the CVT gearbox that holds onto the gear. So you end up always being in quite high revs and the engine screams quite a bit. But that doesn't really happen in this. And I think that's because the car is fitted with the 7-speed dual-clutch transmission gearbox. It has 2 modes, of course, an automatic mode where it seamlessly transitions through the gears, and then there's an auto mode as well, which you can use as small paddles behind the wheel. This being a 1.5 litre diesel, only having 116 brake horsepower and a 0 to 62 time of around 10 seconds, I don't see much point in the paddles in all honesty, because you're not really aiming for spirited driving. But I suppose if you want to, you could do it. Being a dual clutch transmission, I can only imagine that in that mode it's going to be very quick. Despite the relatively small powertrain, you do still have different driving modes in this car. What I'm going to do now is kind of explore how much these change the driving dynamic and driving experience. So if you go down to the central column, there's a little button that says dynamic on it, and if you can push up, we can go into comfort from eco that we're in at the moment. If we push up again, we can go into sport. These driving modes change the traction control, they change the transmission and the engine dynamics. So what I imagine is with most cars that have these sort of settings, is that the car will start from higher revs and be able to rev higher. It'll probably change gears later as a result, and the traction control will be probably a little bit more slippery. So the car I've changed from eco into sport, and it does feel more lively. Once again, I feel like it's kind of, because it's not meant to be a performance car, being a 1.5 litre diesel, it's meant to be, you get it so you can daily drive in it. And the different modes, are they necessary? Are they unnecessary? What do you think? Leave me a comment in the comments section, with your thoughts on whether it's necessary in a car like this. It's the same with, the sort of NX300 Hybrid from Lexus. I mean, is that truly necessary for a Sport and a Sport Plus mode? I suppose it adds a little bit of dynamism to the driving experience, but once again, do you really need or want that in this kind of car? Anyway, so yeah, definitely feels more lively, revving a little bit higher. There's no real different engine noise coming from the back. It's not a valve-controlled exhaust or anything like that. Does the steering change at all? No, it doesn't. So the steering, I think, stays pretty much the same throughout. Maybe it gets a little bit harder, but it's not hugely noticeable. Moving on to steering, I suppose that segues nicely. I have to say I'm quite impressed with the steering. I have unfortunately nothing to compare this to because I haven't driven the first A Class, but it feels pretty direct. I imagine this car has an electric power steering mode, which usually means that the driver feels fairly disconnected to the road and the driving experience. But in this it feels fairly connected actually. you can position the car quite well, and because of the steering wheel, really nice leather feel, very high quality. It adds for a very pleasant driving experience, but there is undeniably some understeer for sure. So despite a sense of some level of connection, and despite the sort of premium feel because of the really nice notches in the 9 and 3 positions on the wheel, there's 100% there's understeer. Not all the time, but if you're really having to pull quite hard into a corner, not necessarily at speed, but just making quite an acute turn, you definitely feel understeer coming from the front end. I'm now going to move on to the braking feel of the new A Class. First of all, I'm going to talk about the pedals. One thing I've noticed with Mercedes pedals is that the brake is always a lot larger because they're usually automatics, which is fine, but it sits quite high up. Now, the worst car I had this in was the Edition 463 G-Wagon that I drove. Now, the brake pedal on that was significantly higher than the accelerator, so you had a lot of travel between transitioning your foot from the brake and onto the accelerator and vice versa. This can cause a bit of an issue because maybe your foot can get a bit tied up if you're not used to it. Fortunately, in this new A Class, it's not anywhere near as bad as that. You can definitely feel there is quite a difference though. The brake is set quite a lot higher than the accelerator. Whether this is going to cause significant problems, I'm not sure. If you're trying to brake slowly, that's easy. It's not really jerky at all. It's very easy to press the pedal in a kind of smooth manner and achieve a smooth braking feel without having to get to learn the car very much. So if you're wanting to slow the car down at speed, you definitely have confidence that the brakes in this car are going to be able to achieve that. As within all cars, you slowly depress the pedal to get more bite until the car slows to the speed you want or stands still. And you definitely get the feedback that I would say you get the desired feedback. One of the main talking points of the new A Class is the dual screen format in front of me. So how easy is that to use? It takes a little bit of getting used to if you haven't been kind of taught how to do it, or if you can't intuitively kind of work it out because you've had experience with these kind of cars before. Now, I'm not sure if it's because this car has a premium pack or anything like that, but there are touch-sensitive buttons on either side of the steering wheel. These need to be used to scroll through the different menus on the front screen for the driver's display and also for the infotainment screen on the left-hand side. That's more central. If you aren't aware that they're touch-sensitive and they need to be kind of scrolled through, you can kind of fumble around the steering wheel trying to work out how to get through all the various controls. That's maybe one issue, but as soon as you've worked it out, it's fine after that. Very easy to use. You can sometimes get a little bit confused, or they may scroll too quickly or not scroll at all, which is always going to be a problem I feel with controls like that instead of having a physical control. But nonetheless, they're fairly responsive, and it's an innovative solution to at least try to do that kind of thing. Secondly, there are a significant amount of options you can choose through. It's all because of the new Mercedes-Benz User Interface, or MBUX, that was unveiled at the Geneva Motor Show this year, 2018. It tries to make the system more intuitive, more customizable. So you can customize the layout. You want a sport layout or an eco layout or a comfort layout, and you can customize that, and there are a significant amount of ambient lighting controls you can customize within this new Mercedes-Benz user interface. They've engineered what is meant to be a very intelligent voice command system. You have specific commands when you say Mercedes, and then change the temperature, or call X, change the track to, or change the radio station, etc., etc. When I'm saying Mercedes, the screen in front of me is also picking up what I'm saying, and it's saying, how can I help you, which is quite amusing. But one of the interesting things they're saying is that it can also learn commands. So it's not just, this is the system, you kind of have to deal with it. It's more adaptable. The system can grow and it can learn. So Mercedes is saying, okay, this is the system, but depending on your preferences, maybe the system can be improved, as you begin to use it more. It would take quite a significant amount of time with the car, I feel, to be able to really explore that. And unfortunately, I don't have that. So I've only got this one afternoon and I have to shoot 2 videos. So I can't really explore that, but it would be interesting to see in the future kind of how that comes along. So moving specifically on how easily it is to decipher all of the information in front of me, it's fairly easy. I mean, the way I've got it set up at the moment is right at the top there's a big thing that has my speed layout, which is important. On the left side it's got the miles per hour, and on the right side it has the engine revs. Then there's some other stuff as well which you can change quite easily. So it's MPG, mileage, remaining mileage, range, that kind of stuff. Gear selected, and driving mode, which is in eco currently. The entire screen, every single element of this screen is customizable. You're probably going to want to do that at a standstill because it can be not necessarily time consuming, but if you want it set up in a specific way, you want to make sure that you're doing it in the most safe way possible, and that certainly probably isn't driving. In terms of using the infotainment screen while driving, I haven't tried it too much, but they've changed it to a flat trackpad. So I don't know if you know before, but they had a more sort of curved trackpad that you could scroll through. But now they've got a flat, kind of matte satin kind of feeling trackpad. Easy to use. It is quite a hard to press to be able to select the desired option screen. But at the top you can go back a step or go to home. They're very easy controls to use. Good thing about the trackpad is that if you're using the sat nav, you can easily scroll out by pinching, or you can zoom in by pushing down or spreading your fingers. That's a very good option. Makes it more kind of intuitive, easier to use. It's intuitive because now, because of smartphones spreading and pinching, we're so used to that kind of control. So it's good that they've engineered that into the system. In terms of noise insulation, it's very good. There's no real noise coming from the front-mounted engine, so that's quiet. There's not a huge amount of wind noise, although I haven't driven this car on the motorway, so I haven't had a real test with it. So overall, I have to say that noise insulation is very good. It's quite a quiet cabin, quite a quiet driving experience. I can imagine next year, whenever the A45 comes, that's going to change completely. But until then, with this at least. Let's now move on to visibility. The wing mirrors are surprisingly small for a car like this. They provide okay visibility, but I feel that you could definitely have bigger wing mirrors to provide better visibility at the sides. So it's not like I feel completely unaware of what's either side of me. I just feel like they could be a bit bigger. They are quite small. Rear visibility is quite good. The rear window is fairly small, but the combination between this mirror and the rear window, I feel, provide good visibility. I don't feel like there's anything lacking, and of course it's magnified, so everything is a bit crisper and clearer. The front windscreen is actually quite a small piece of glass. Do I feel it's obstructed by anything? You're always very aware of the rear view mirror. You're always very aware of the top section up here and the sun visor. The pillars don't get in the way very much, but it feels a little bit limited over here. In terms of the blind spot, it feels quite good, obviously, because you have the rear windows. So visibility is good, maybe be improved somewhat by having larger wind mirrors as a start. So what about comfort and interior space? Well, the model I've got at the moment, these may be the sport seats. They're manually adjustable, so all the controls are found to the side and to the front, but you have to kind of move them around yourself. That's fine. The seats themselves feel pretty comfortable. I've been driving 20 minutes, half an hour, and I feel like I could probably do a lot more than this. It's a good position to the wheel. The steering wheel I feel might be over to the right just a bit, and once again the pedals are off to the right as well. Now, whereas the front is very comfortable and very spacious, I feel two people could be very, very comfortable in the front. I feel that the rear might be a little bit compromised. This is strange considering the dimensions of the car have improved overall. Length, width, even the boot space has been improved on by around about 20 litres, I think. So it's a generally more usable car. But when I was sitting in the rear earlier, I still felt it was quite tight. Sitting at the £30,000 price mark, you sort of expect to be able to use it very well with 4 people, 5 people maybe. And so the slightly compromised space that I feel at the rear, should have been worked out better. Overall, I have to say I'm incredibly impressed by this car. When you think about the last A Class, the one that this one is replacing, it was still a premium car in the range when you compare it to everything else that was out there. It was lacking, some journalists have said, in its driving ability, but it was always fairly well equipped. That's a good thing with Mercedes. This car feels like such a huge step up. All the elements that are taken from the S Class and the premium models that have been brought into this car. Of course, it makes it a little bit unattainable for some people because the price starts at, quite a lot. In the UK, I think it's around 26,000, but really you're looking at about 30,000 for a car that's going to be out on the road. Obviously, that's going to depreciate, and you're going to be able to get cheaper cars than that in 6 months to a year or so. Now, for a entry-level hatchback, that seems like quite a lot of money, especially when you consider that the Focus RS, which is an incredible vehicle, and basically the top of the Ford range, is 32,000 brand new. Now, people who go for this car probably aren't looking for a budget hatchback. They're probably going to be upgrading to this. You have so many amazing elements, like the air vents that have ambient lighting, the strip of ambient lighting that goes all around and through the central column, just like in the E Class and the S Class. The S Class inspired wheel and the huge dash in front of you. It's exceptionally premium, very well laid out. So back in my Porsche after my GoPro decided it wanted to overheat and cut out. I have no idea why, but I've been having massive issues with my GoPro today. First of all, there were SD card problems, and then it just decided to shut off. I just want to say a huge thank you to Mercedes-Benz Ascot for allowing me to test the car for the day. Fingers crossed I can get something else pretty exciting fairly soon, but until then, all of their contact details are in the description of the video. They have quite a few different A-Class models, the new ones, to test out. So if you're in the area and you want to test drive a new Mercedes A-Class, head over there and I'm sure they can help you out. But until then, I want to say thank you to everyone watching the video. Please subscribe for the latest content. And until next time, thanks for watching.